Welcome back to the channel. This morning, I have 22 miles on the agenda. The goal is to run the first 15 easy, and then run the last 7 at marathon pace. So we'll see how that goes. In my last 22 mile workout that I did a few weeks ago, and the video is up on the channel, what I found was that I struggled to maintain marathon pace at those later miles, so miles 17, 18, 19. And then my cool down miles were also trash. So part of what progress means in this prep is when I do future 22 mile workouts, even if the times and the paces don't go down, I want to feel better when I'm done with the workout. I don't want to feel like I completely exhausted myself. That's going to be an indicator of progress. And so I think in terms of working on those later miles and maintaining faster paces, I have to do things like this where I run, the first 15, 16, 17 miles easy, get the legs relatively exhausted, and then push for those faster miles, just to get used to running those faster miles at longer distances. Got my nice Goo Gel, Go Gel. Probably take that at mile 10, and then we'll be good. One of the things I wanted to talk about in this video was just why I love marathon training, probably why I love fitness more generally, but marathon training specifically. So I've been running, not specifically marathons, but just running to stay fit, running in the Marine Corps because we had a 3-mile physical fitness test that we had to maintain within a certain standard. So I've been running for about 15 years, since high school, since middle school. And initially, it was really just a social thing. My friends, some of them still my best friends to this day, they were running back in middle school. They got me into running in high school. They convinced me to join the JROTC, which is really what got me on the military track. And 2 of my best friends are triathletes right now. So initially, it was a social thing that got me into running. But then I realized that I was actually kind of good at it, relatively speaking. One of my best friends ended up being the cross-country captain in high school, and I remember during our ROTC runs, I would beat him some of the times. And so that made me think, maybe this is something that I could do. And I just noticed that in many of the social circles that I went to, whether it was in high school, like I mentioned, or when I got to college and I joined the ROTC program in college, or when I was pledging for my fraternity, if you can run, people look at you differently. I think it's the same for other types of fitness as well, but for running, what's been my experience that if you can run even just a couple miles and not be breathing hard, people think that's impressive, and they start to make all kinds of associations about you and assumptions. Oh, you're in shape, and sometimes they might think, oh, you're just genetically gifted, but I've never gotten that. It's always been, oh, he runs, he must be able to focus, he must be disciplined, he must be able to set goals and make plans and execute those plans and learn. And so, whether it was in the fraternity or in ROTC in undergrad, if there was a time for me to perform when it comes to running, or even just like working out with friends, and people noticed that I was a good runner, they would then extrapolate and add other positive characteristics to me. In psychology, it's called the halo effect, where if you see that someone is doing something well in one domain, you assume that they're going to be good at something in another domain. And then the opposite of that is the devil horns effect, Of course, you see someone who's doing something negative or something you don't like in one domain, you then think that they're, a piece of garbage in every other domain. So that was my experience. And in ROTC, for example, we had a 3-mile run. I was able to run it at one point in time. I'm not going to do that now. In a little less than 16 minutes. And many of the leaders at the time, let's say I was a freshman in undergrad, many of the upperclassmen saw that and said, oh, he might have leadership potential. He can at least set his mind to something and then accomplish it. And that carried with me, and as long as I didn't squander the opportunity, and as long as I kept running and maintaining, decent paces, that followed me into the Marine Corps. It followed me through my different units. It's enabled me to make great friends even when I got out of the Marine Corps, and I just run around Atlanta. And then even when I spent 2 years after the Marine Corps at a corporate job, people knew that I ran marathons, and I would show them pictures because they'd ask about it, and because I would show off. There's that too. It felt good. And they were very, appreciative, and they praised me, and that was nice. Shout out to Home Depot. It was a great culture, great environment, great place to work. But, when I was at Home Depot and I would run local 5Ks or run the big Atlanta marathon, people started to take those performances and create an image of me that was good. And as long as I maintained their expectations, if they're like, oh, Solomon is a fast runner, he's really athletic, he must also like to wake up early and, come to work, make sure he might also like to make sure he's at work on time. So, if I just made sure that I was there early, and that was fine. So running has been it's been great sociologically, but it's also been great psychologically, because when it comes to marathon training specifically, I think I've told this story before, but I've only been running marathons for about 4 years. And the first time I ran a marathon, I did it in 4 hours and 40 minutes. And I was crawling. I was on my hands and knees crawling by the end. And I was able to get that time down over the course of a few years to 2 hours and 59 minutes. And that was done about a year ago. And now I'm going for 2 hours and 50 minutes. So psychologically, it's been great to practice setting the goal, setting what I consider a difficult goal, trying to beat it, failing, learning from those failures, and then eventually hitting those goals. So, with this 250 marathon that I'm aiming for in May, I'm doing what I can to generate a plan, to strategize, to learn, to get feedback from my body, from stats from the treadmill, stats from my watch, to make sure that I'm making progress. But if I don't hit the goal in May, I'll be a little disappointed, but I know that I'll have learned a lot. I'm pretty sure if I don't hit 250, I'll hit 255, which is still faster. So my goal is to learn and to make progress, and I'm not exactly focused on the specific goal, although I do have it in mind. But what's more important to me is that I learn, and I don't take my failures as, oh, I'm a horrible person, and I don't over-identify with running. I'm not just a marathon runner, but I'm someone who is trying to learn, is trying to make progress, and is trying to develop and adapt and become better. So marathon training has allowed me to practice what I would call high performance training. Setting a goal, making a plan, executing the plan, and being open and humble to receive those failures and the feedback from other people, from objective data, and then also just my own subjective feedback. Marathon training has been great for that, and I think of it as a small microcosm of what it means to be a high performer. There are many ways to be high performers, to be a high performer, high-performing individual. You know, fitness is one realm. It can also be in your family life. It could be in school. It could be at work. It could be in your church. And so marathon training for me is just one way to practice setting and accomplishing goals and continuing on a path that I think is good, and not just good for me, but also good for the people that I love and I care about. You know, I want to be healthy for my wife. Eventually I want to have kids, and I want to be able to set the example for them, and I want to show them that if they're disciplined and if they're humble, life has a lot to teach them. And if they take those opportunities with a growth-centered mindset, that they'll be able to accomplish many things. And then they can be great for other people. You know, my kids will grow up and, you know, they'll have kids and they'll have partners and they'll have families. And so that's something that I care about, and marathon training really helps me practice just trying to be better. And I even do my best to apply it, like I mentioned, to, you know, other domains of my life that also make up my identity. You know, how can I be a better husband? How can I be a better scholar? What does it mean to be a high-performing graduate student? I have the goal of becoming a clinical psychologist one day. What does it mean to be a student that gets things done? You know, just like in marathon training, there are things that I have to do every single day. I have to run, I have to stretch, I have to hydrate, and my performance on a daily basis gives me feedback when I don't do those things. You know, this week I really haven't been stretching, and I feel it, and so that sucks. And so if I want to keep letting my performance decrease, well then, you know, I just stop stretching. But if I want to be better, I know I have to attend more to those habits, those good habits. It's the same thing with trying to be a scholar. I probably need to, you know, read for at least 4 hours a day. I need to write for 1 hour a day. I need to practice speaking and communicating to the degree that talking is a form of thinking. That's something that I have to practice, because that's what I want to be one day. I want to be a psychologist, an academic, a researcher, a clinician. And so I want to be able to learn and to synthesize and to articulate well, so that way I can help other people. So that's why I love marathon training, and that's why I love running. Appreciate you guys for listening. I'm gonna finish out this run, and then I'll see you in the next video.